Thank you, Bruno. Thank you very much. Good, great. Yes, welcome everybody to today's afternoon. I'm very happy to be able to present you our project, Save the Water. I myself am from the Zurich University of the Arts, from the game design specialization. As you can see, we have a lot of projects here on our website. We have 14 years of experience already in serious games research and development, together with a lot of cooperation, various kinds, various topics, from health, education, intercultural, and extra-game contexts. And yeah, you can look them up on the website. Today I'm going to talk to you about a special kind of cooperation that's been going on for 2 years already. It's between the ETH, the Polytech University Institute of Environmental Engineering. So I'm be speaking more of the ecology context today, but also economy, of course. ETH team has been providing excellent relationships in China, also having Chinese scientists on our team. They are providing the scientific framework for this cooperation, and they came up with a core idea to us in the game design and asked us to provide game design infrastructure and expertise. This whole project has been funded by the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. It's kind of a public-funded project, and it's been going on for 2-3 years, and now we're applying for another batch of money. The problem that we're trying to address is taking place in Guangzhou, in the province of Handan, in the center of China. Here you see farmland. This is an area where 100,000 farmers are working, and there's a growing and huge problem of groundwater depletion. So the groundwater, that's all the water that's been collected below the surface that we don't see, is declining severely, and this is mostly due to, in China now, to double cropping practice. So the farmers can have different strategies for cropping, for sowing the field. You can have single crops that you can yield corn or wheat in the summer, but to make more money you can also double crop, and then you have something in the winter as well, and that is using at least a double amount of water. Just to kind of give you a perspective of what this is dealing with. So once there is no water, because there's not enough rainwater to collect for these fields, it will be a huge problem for food production, also for the climate and ecological balance. So what should this game help in this context? One of the main aims is to build awareness first among the farmers in a simple and accessible way, because groundwater is something, you drill it, you get it, you try to drill again, it doesn't come out, you drill a little deeper, you get more water out. That's kind of the everyday, super simplified everyday life. So you have to build awareness first to understand that this water is not here forever. The game should provide playful interaction and also give a possibility to experience the possible consequences of different strategies. But the game also can provide information for research, and this is the main research question for the project, is how do policies change the player or eventually the farming behavior. Now there's a lot of target groups that we're trying to address. This is from the playtesting last year in China with farmers. In the middle you see Wolfgang Kinzelbach, who's the head of the project from the Polytech University. So this is the board game that we're developing, or that we have developed. Sessions with farmers, but also with government officials and engineers and other people working in the water system. And as a third party, there are students, because they are the ones who will be leading workshops with farmers, eventually with the games. So, as mentioned, there's this board game that should lead to qualitative research, having kind of workshop scenarios with embedded interviews and follow-up talks. There's a complex version for politicians, officials, students, with more complex game design, more text, more information, more add-ons. And resulting from the first playtesting, we created simplified versions directly for the farmers, because that proved to be more accessible, shorter, more practical to implement and produce. Currently, we're also developing a mobile game, an online browser game, single player, for quantitative research, because there you can, of course, gather different kinds of data. You can see what kind of policies players choose depending on a crisis situation, how long they will play, what kind of decisions they are taking. I will display the link afterwards. It's ready to play anyways. So the overall gameplay that we developed, it's a simulation of the agricultural cycle of a year. Every player takes the role of a farmer. And then there are two main goals that contradict each other to make the gameplay more intriguing, but it's also connected to the scientific reality. So the one big goal is to try to earn a living with the farm, make it grow, develop it, expand it, make it more efficient. So the player who has most money at the end wins. Unless the groundwater depletes. So there's, of course, the big groundwater topic, and you have to make sure that there is still enough water left for yourself and for the community. This is the visualization of the groundwater. You see, of course, there's a red bar at the end that shows on the ground that this is a no-go, and it goes up to the blue one. At the beginning of the game, you have these blue tokens that you fill the groundwater, and then you take the groundwater away so you can actually visualize it. And there were a lot of play testings that went ahead before we came up with this solution. So these are different aspects of the board game. To the left, you have your character cards. For this board game, there are 4 players. You see, maybe you can have add-ons such as water pumps or sprinklers, insurances, because there are also a number of accidental factors that you, of course, cannot control, such as weather, such as bugs or other kind of natural catastrophes that will influence your cropping cycles. Then you have your field in the middle. There you can choose if you want to single crop or double crop, grow vegetables in a greenhouse, have tractors and other irrigation problems. And then when you have the groundwater pool and you have to sow your fields and irrigate your fields, you just take the drops from the groundwater. That's kind of an easy, direct visualization of the problem. Then you have game phases that you go through. So you have a forecast at the beginning that tells you what kind of weather it might be, but then you already have to make the decision. Do I want to single crop or double crop, or what do I want to do? Then the weather actually comes in. If it rains, it will fill up the groundwater. If it doesn't, it will actually take it more to the bottom. Irrigation. And one of the big parts of the game mechanics is the community council. So at the end of each yearly cycle, the groups of 4 players, they sit together and they start to discuss the past and next year's behavior, the policies that they might want to do together. There's a voting. So it's a democratic process which should lead to self-reflection and bigger engagement also for the next game cycle. So in the board game, there's 4 years of games that the players will play together. This is the Chinese version. And as in all serious game developments, there's a tension or a balance between realism and gameplay. So scientific models, of course, are simplified. In our opinion, coming from game design, gameplay is king. If there's motivation design doesn't work, or the game mechanics, they are lacking any thrill or excitement, then there's no use because nobody really wants to play it, and there's no engagement. So we needed a clear goal. We needed to reduce the number and complexity of choices and correlations drastically. And also the speed was actually enhanced, because in reality it will take months until it rains, until the groundwater gets filled up. In the game it takes just minutes, of course. It rains, groundwater is filled. So there's a lot of discussions that took place between the scientists and the game designers. Here's a little bit of footage of the online game that has been play tested in March in China. Also here maybe noted you have a farm, it's a single player game. Again, you choose what you want to do and you see the groundwater, and depending on the weather, groundwater gets smaller or bigger. There are some features that simulate the community. It's much harder at the moment to have a community feeling, but you get some messages like, oh, your neighbor took more water than you had planned, etc. But that's a point that we want to engage more. So this is kind of about the community usage. So what are our take-home messages? For once, of course, this was remote design. We designed it and play-tested it first in Switzerland. It's made for China, for a variety of target users. We probably did too much balancing and tweaking at home, so next time, go to China earlier, play it earlier there. Always interdisciplinary, intercultural teams, absolutely necessary. And for us, we really understood that community building, this multiplayer factor for a problem that is a community problem, is absolutely necessary as a core mechanic. So please, if you like, try the game. It's playable already, and if you like, drop me a message. Thank you very much. Good. Thank you.
Do we have questions in the audience? Yes. Gentleman over there. Can you stay behind?
Of course. Oh, that's invisible. Yeah. You got it. Oh.
Thank you. Very interesting. And what about the acceptance of the game from the people on the field?
It got really well accepted. We didn't need an external translator, so we had Chinese scientists and Chinese people who were really well familiar with this culture on us, and we did a workshop with explanation, but we understood that we really need to embed it. So we're not sure if the mobile game will be as popular as the board game. Of course, it takes a lot of manpower to conduct it, but it was well received, and the discussions, they were vivid. Mm-hmm.
Another question? I actually wanted to know, while people find another question, how do you evaluate the acceptance? You have a partner in China, but what does it measure? Is there a way to improve that?
We did some interviews, Chinese interviews, written ones, which worked really well for the officials and the students who filled it out. For farmers directly, they did follow-up discussions, and they were also talking during the game. And during the complex version first, it was too much, and we understood that we have to change it. So the first round of playtesting, it didn't go so well, and then we adjusted the game mechanics, and then the game was more fun, and they were playing it and discussing. So also the amount of discussion taking place was, but it's not a quantitative measurement at the moment. Mm-hmm. So more qualitative.
Just very, very interesting. Very interesting speech. I was wondering, how will you be able to see the real impact? Like, how would you forecast that will be done, and how is it possible to ensure that people will not just say, yeah, it's a game, yeah, it's a fun game, let's play it again, and just take all the water in the real life, because we have to make the money?
Yes, very good question. For sure, it will be a long-term result measurement. I mean, what can be measured now, for example, with the drilling of the groundwater is electricity. There is secret drilling, but there you can measure electricity, and you can, in the newer drilling technology, you can implement it that is not possible anymore. So you could probably see if there's a decline overall, or a more official kind of setting. I think we see also success also in political ways, like what happens on a political level, how many people can be addressed, how many, what kind of process will the stone get rolling? Very hard to measure it, obviously, yeah. So I think it will take many years, because now the tools are ready, but now it takes a lot of money to implement it. There are some research projects in China who are interested to use it and go on the fields. So,
Thank you again, Mela. Let's congratulate you.
Thank you very much.